All right. So I was just thinking about this today in the amount of business school education that it's just flat out wrong. And part of this has to do with the fact that, it's the age-old problem of people not practicing the particular craft that they're actually studying. And I am painfully aware of how wrong much of the education actually is. And so, I want to talk about this in terms of, much of what we teach in business school is it's not wrong in the sense that, that it's like wrong information. It's wrong in the sense of it teach you about what it actually takes to build something and to do something that is really cool and interesting. So, I'm a business school professor. So if you don't know me, I am Professor Dave Masek. I'm an associate professor of innovation strategy and entrepreneurship. And I created this whole reciprocity project to give back as much as I possibly can. There's so many people that help me out that I want to pay the favor for to help you out. So I thought, how the whole reciprocity project started was, as a young assistant professor, went into my chair's office at the time, and I said, can I get some editing done? And the chair said, no, we can't afford that. And I was realizing that there is stark differences between business schools in terms of the resources they have, and that's a real big penalty. So we sought out to create the reciprocity platform, which is a kind of like a sharing economy. Imagine like Airbnb or Uber for writing and doing work. That's the way that I'm imagining it. So the more that I build this out, the more that it's going to become some sort of interesting thing to help us do work better. So, as I sought out to build this, I began to realize that there's a lot of assumptions that I totally did not get. And in fact, it's not told and it's not talked about, because the reason why it's not talked about in terms of what we research is that it's kind of like boring stuff. It's the day-to-day stuff that a lot of people don't focus on, right? So most of business school education, when you go get a business school degree, whether it's an undergrad, an MBA, or even a PhD, is focused on really just corporate strategy. It's been focused on that for a long time. So things like mergers and acquisitions, alliances, really big topics that, organizational design, that really focus on large organizations that are, thousands and thousands of people that are in them, because that's what primarily, business school researchers used to study, or they still study. The most of them do. And the most of the education, or most of what we actually teach, is completely wrong in the sense it doesn't apply to, doing something where you're building up from the get-go. And you got to figure out how to do this, right? So General Electric is completely different than, and even Airbnb, once it's large, or Facebook, once it's large, is completely different than what it's like to actually build something out and actually get to the moment where you actually build something. So I thought it would be really interesting, right? Of building out the reciprocity platform. So I thought everybody would flock to it. It'd be super easy. That part would be easy. Of getting people to actually use the thing, because it's like free service, right? Like you can get free editing, you can get all these different sort of things on your work. I thought it'd be super easy to actually get people to use it. Turns out that is the hard part, is actually getting people to use the damn thing, right? So the puzzle that is focused on in business school research, that and there's a lot of research, particularly innovation folks, have focused on trying to figure out why people do things for free, why they give free work away. But, I found it's actually the opposite. People actually want to help out in the sense that they want to, do free work. But it's the harder part is actually getting people to, provide work for other people. That's the harder part. It's actually the opposite side of what everybody else is sort of studying and researching. So it's kind of really fascinating to see this on this side. And the other thing that you often, all of that research, the vast majority of what we're teaching in business school doesn't apply to most real world stuff. And this is, I think, like, nobody has done what I've done. Like, what I'm doing is incredibly unique. I only know one person at MIT that did something like this years ago. And he's an much older person. So I'm like the person that's actually trying to seek to build something out like this. And is actively doing research at the same time. And so there's this like massive disconnect. I'm seeing all these sort of problems of what it means to build something like this, in the sense we just don't have very good information. Luckily, I study learning, and that's a key thing to what I study. And what I've come to conclude is that much of what we have to do is very much a learning process, right? It's very much trial and error. When you build something, you don't know what the hell you're doing, and that is normal. And then you got to figure out how to build this thing and keep building it. But the hardest part, and this is kind of really central to my research, is, you want to stop. It sucks. You're spending far too much money. You're spending far too much time. It's not fun. You get for me as an academic, it's a complete waste of time. It's completely frowned upon. It is considered a complete negative. Doing any entrepreneurship in a business school. How stupid is that? But it is. You ask anybody that's a legitimate research professor, they think that doing what I'm doing is totally wrong. And there's a huge stigma against it. So stupid me, I wanted to do this, but at the same time, I've learned a lot about what it means in terms of the gaps of education, in terms of what it is. So there's a problem though with the students that I've realized as well. The students don't necessarily want to learn the things about regular everyday life. So there's this complaint, right? Like, we're out of touch and all that kind of stuff. But when I teach about the everydayness, right, like the mundanity of life, that's the really important thing, which anybody that's in their 30s, maybe even in their late 20s, kind of gets by that point of like, oh shit, you're not making $1 million, $1 billion deals all the time. You're actually doing this nitty gritty stuff. The students don't want to learn about that, and they don't want to be taught that stuff. They want to learn about, like, oh, there's great big deal, and this is how you make $1 billion, all that kind of crap, right? Like, which is utter crap. But all that stuff, a human is actually being taught in terms of what it is to look at, and the everydayness of the business environment, of building something, of being entrepreneurial, is completely discounted, in the sense that there is just a lot of, nobody's talking about the nitty gritty, boring stuff, which is at the heart of the business environment, right? It is the heart of it. Now, there is one small, but it's actually a pretty big part of academic literature in this area, and it's on routines. But the routines, in terms of how it's discussed, is kind of like, it's like a simplistic view that is not really like boring. It's in a sense that we just have routines and they're really important. But what we don't realize, and what's not being taught, is that routines are really boring. Like, it is really tedious to do these things. Like, it is absolutely boring life to do this, right? Like, to repeatedly do this stuff every single day, and sort of get up and do it and sort of push things back. But I want everybody to remember that is the core problem that we face, that's what it means. Like, if we view ourselves as sort of learning organisms or actors or whatever you want to call it, it is this: do I decide every day? Do I decide to continue to try this thing or not? And most people, because I think, like, it sucks, right? It's like, work basically sucks. It's like weight loss or any other thing like this. It sucks in the short term for most people. So I think what we need to teach more and sort of drill down is that, it does suck, and it is grinding away, and it is tedious, and it's your decision to keep going every day that actually matters. But when I teach those things, a few people get it. I think the people that are like, that sort of struggle with things and that are really trying, they get it. But most of the students don't get this. They're kind of like, whatever, things are going to be easy. And I think that's somewhat problematic on the students. So we've got this two-sided problem. We've got, on the business school education research side, nobody wants to research this kind of stuff. I've said for years and years and years, we should not be studying Fortune 500 firms. Like, that's stupid. That's a waste of time. They're important, and they have a large impact on our economy, but the people that sell hot dogs, or that have the little print shop, or sell T-shirts, those folks are equally important, if not more important. Their individual impact is not that big in terms of economic input, but in terms of collectively, they have a massive impact. It's something like, so I don't know what the American numbers are, but somewhere around the Canadian numbers. It's pretty equal across most countries. It's somewhere around 75% of the economy is small businesses, like micro businesses. And those are the ones that actually matter, right? Like, if you start looking at it, and then how do we get people to focus on that? So that's the research problem. Nobody wants to focus on the hot dog stands because they're not interesting enough. Like, if I get somebody that works at a hot dog stand to make an extra $25 a month, that's big for them, but everybody else is like, who cares? And so that research is never going to get published. It's incredibly hard to publish that research. Because it's like, people just have that's what they say, who cares? That's what all of the researchers would say, who cares? And you have to have this amazingly strong argument to say that this actually matters. And then on the other side is the students do not want to know about the pain of getting up and doing this. And so I tried to illustrate that. I actually think I got through to a couple this semester, in the sense that I was like, okay, Mr. Smarty Pants or Mrs. Smarty Pants, if you think this is so easy, go do it right now. Just go in the hallway and go do it. And I think I got to them in terms of like, and nobody wanted to do it, obviously. And I think I got to them of like, oh crap, you know what? When push comes to shove, this is harder than I think it is. And that's where, we need to figure out how to fill these gaps. On the research side, we have so much to study. It's so important. Even the sense of what I'm doing right now, I have to build an audience to get this damn thing, like, for people to know about it. Nobody's going to know about the Reciprocity Project unless I get an audience. So how do you get an audience? Well, it's a heck of a lot harder than everybody thinks, right? Like, it's really hard. If you think about it, we have a deluge of information already, and media and content and all that stuff. And like, what's another voice out there of some, person that is going through all of this kind of stuff? Like, who cares, right? Like, that's what everybody's response is. I'm not, who are these fancy people that are kind of borderline like icky, like Grant Cardone and all those kind of folks that are like on the borderline of like, yeah, I don't know. I think they're a little on the sleazy side. But I'm not going to do that kind of stuff, right? Because I'm not selling any like that hard sell kind of crap. Sell courses and all that kind of crap. And that's actually how they make their money, is selling you on dreams, by the way. All of this kind of stuff is, and by the way, if you like Grant Cardone, good on you. If he helps you, that's great. I don't get good feelings. So, and I apologize if Grant Cardone listens to this. I apologize to you. It's my own personal opinion. It has nothing against you, all that kind of stuff. So, what I want everybody to sort of realize is that it's really hard to do any of these kind of things. And if you've done it ever, and if you stood out, if you're that one person that stood out and actually decided to take a leap at whether it's innovating or entrepreneurship, and you're like, damn it, I'm going to make a go of it. When you make a go of it, the first thing you do is okay, I'm responsible for this. That's your initial response. It's like, okay, I'm responsible. And then the second response is, what the hell do I do? What do I do? And you don't know. That's the thing, right? You never know what you should be doing with entrepreneurship or innovation, right? And teaching that is hard, but it's equally hard to get people to understand that, hey, you don't know what you're doing, but that's okay. But you still have to get up and act. How do you do that? What do you do? Right? Like getting those ideas through of what does it mean for me to actually just do something? That's it's a hard thing to do. Don't know if it's possible to teach other than, I think it is. I really do think everything's totally possible to teach. I think we need to really start getting people used to just doing things on their own. And how do you do that? I think a large chunk of people just do not have that propensity at all. That's not their style. It sucks. And so they shouldn't do that. But then, the people that have that propensity to get up and get going, they have to sort of learn incrementally what it means to get up and get going, and teach them the steps of what to do when you're like, I don't know what to do. I have no idea, right? And that sort of systematic step-by-step fashion is important. So it's more of an engineering approach or a design approach than anything, where you're thinking of, all right, I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. Let's systematically go through this. I know what the right answer is. I could see it in my head. Let's step back from where I am into where I need to go. And let's think about this sort of step-by-step fashion. Now you can lay out the process and all that kind of stuff, right? Like it seems pretty easy, right? All this stuff seems pretty easy. But then here's the problem that I think business school education is always not going to be able to do, because it's just too short. It's semestered systems, all those kind of things. We're never going to get there because it's just too short. And even to, in an MBA program in 2 years or a year, that's too short. We need to teach people about persistence and to not give up on themselves. Like so if you have an idea, we need to teach people that you don't give up on the idea even when it seems wrong. The easiest thing for most people to do is to give up and to say, I'm Okay, I apologize. I got cut out for a second there. I'm going to have to get going in a very short second. But what we need... I'm sorry, everybody. I'm getting a phone call on the other side, so it keeps getting cut off. I'm probably going to have to get going, but we need to teach people how to persist at something a lot longer than when they think it's actually going to work out. I think that's the important thing. As long as you have an inkling that it might work out, I strongly believe that everybody should keep going with it, keep persisting with it. I think that's the important lesson, but that's hard to teach in a matter of a year or two. And undergraduate students are just not ready for that, to be honest. Unfortunately, I just don't think that they're at that point in their life that they want to sort of see that kind of stuff. So, the challenge is, how do we get people to learn about this over the long run? That's, I think, hopefully you could see the Reciprocity Project with my just unbelievable amount of just persistence at this every day, doing social media every day, all this kind of stuff, every single freaking day. I'm on different social media stuff. And then we're also building it out, doing all these kind of things, just to show you what it actually takes to create something from nothing. And I think that is a great thing to do. And that's the way that maybe in 10 years, people will see this. After I've been doing this for 10 years, they'll see it and they'll say, well, crap, that's how you do it. That is the recipe. Just unbelievable grit. No matter what people tell you, you get up and you do it. And even when you're scared and you never want to do it again, get up and you do it no matter what. And I encourage you all to check it out in any sort of, all the sort of socials that I'm on, everything. You name it, I'm on it. Trying to get more of a community together. That's how you do it. I've got no secrets. I'm not a fancy person, but this is the only way you could do it. So that's all I wanted to say is the problem with business school education is we really need to start teaching about persistence and just unbelievable grit over a long period of time. All right, take